thing that pisses me off with the setup in Rainbow Unicorn Land in relation to the government itself and all the totally independent NGO organisations, social justice organisations and NGOs that work independently, of course, alongside them. And it's their exploitation of impoverished Scots that really gets me riled up, because it was only a few years ago, before I knew what I knew, that my family, or me and my mother anyway, might very well have been susceptible to their poison. Because, as I've said before, my mother's disabled. No, actually, when the accusations of white privilege were thrown my way, didn't really take too kindly to it. But too many people seem to be impoverished in Scotland these days, and there's no justification for it. Of course, the government will blame austerity. It's always the same shit. It'll take too long for the arseholes to start their BS again, crawling out the woodwork to start their exploitation campaigns, and this is no different. And we have this little shit here who I made a video on the other day, but decided for the benefit of saving my channel not to upload it because... However, so COVID-19 exposes flaws in Scotland's food system. Campaigners warn, with the spread of coronavirus, food shortages, job losses and a surge in food bank use, which is being created by the government shutting things down. Nothing to do with the fucking virus. Anyway, the Scottish Food Coalition argued the crisis, not a crisis because they could have closed the borders, but they're still not closed. They're still picking up wankers in Cali. Teen has laid bare intrinsic issues within our food system, the campaigners have warned. Of course they have. With the spread of the virus causing food shortages, job losses and a surge in food bank use, the Scottish Food Coalition has argued the crisis highlighted shortcomings in a broken food system, and called on the government to overhaul the way food is distributed in Scotland in the future. They mean time will tell, including the legal right to food for all Scots. Oh, where have I heard that one before? Wouldn't happen to be one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, would it? Of course. The statement also said, the Food Coalition remains fully committed to helping us move to become a good food nation. Well, we get a gold star from the UN, will we? For a good food nation. Stop eating meat, boy. To achieve the status of a good food nation, we need to impose laws, we need to impose restrictions, we need to be controlled. Everything having a right to food, a commission delivering a joined up approach to overseeing, of course, so they will be overseeing things, you see, a national plan for delivering healthy, and there's that word again, sustainable, and there's that word again, struggling to see what relevancy this has to the conversation at hand, however. Stand prepared in our various roles within the food system to support our society as we cope with and go through this period, and we'll continue to be vocal about the systemic challenges facing the food system. Just shut the F up. When it comes to rebuilding our communities and economy, if you've paid any attention to the Rainbow Unicorn delegates for long enough, or any of their little NGO luckies, you will have heard them reference communities over and over and over again, and there's a reason for that, and it's not because they're namby-pamby and progressive and diverse. Because of this word right here, communitarianism, a theory or system of social organisation based on small self-governing communities, an ideology which emphasises the responsibility of the individual to the community and the social importance of the family unit. Emphasise our responsibility to the community, but who is the community? Well, that's the government, that's the environment, that's the United Nations, and so on and so forth. Covert means everything that we do from here on out must be done for the benefit of the community. Just replace community with state, and you kind of get the idea. Anyway, when it comes to rebuilding our communities and economy, we look forward to helping to establish a new norm for developing a truly good food nation. Fuck. Said COVID-19 with its immediate and obvious effects is rightly receiving the attention a potential catastrophe deserves. However, non-existent man-made climate change and the related issues of a broken food system are no less serious. We need to deindustrialise and start eating bugs pronto. While their effects might take a bit more effort to understand, they also destroy many people's lives and threaten to destroy many more, as well as potentially irreversible damage to other elements of the biosphere, said nobody ever. My organisation draws inspiration from the COVID-19 response. Got you inspired? Was it the part where they didn't close the borders, or was the part where Nicola Sturgeon stood and waited for it to come to Scotland? Which shows that drastic societal changes can be made when a cause is recognised to be important. So it's quite worrying actually when you think about just how easily so much of the public have become susceptible to the idea of a communist society or a socialist one. We call upon the government and all responsible global citizens not to rest when COVID-19 is under control, but to lose no time in tackling the food system and non-existent man-made climate change with the same energy and commitment.
There's quality food and drink, like salmon, beef, lamb, raspberries and strawberries, oatcakes, tablet, seafood, whiskey, and so much more. But at the same time, we have an environmental crisis on our hands. Wildlife is being squeezed out by the way that we produce food. And food production is one of the biggest sources of the gases that contribute.
What a shock. So our ability to make food, or the meat industry anyway, alongside our two biggest financial contributors, they all have to go, you see. Nobody seems to put two and two together and realise that something's not quite adding up with all of this.
To climate change.
That's funny.
We are also facing a public health crisis. Our diets are a major cause of poor health in Scotland.
It's got absolutely nothing to do with your previous point, as incorrect as it was. But of course you're going to lump them all in together and you've got the solutions, a sustainable solution, I presume.
And we're facing an inequality crisis.
Yep. Well, there it is, preying on the poor and the financially insecure. Nobody seems to realise, obviously, why would they when they're in the position that they're in currently, that it's the government that are majorly at fault for the problems that they find themselves in, because they've made no effort at all in all the years they've been in power to mitigate the issues that people are now finding themselves in, and instead have chosen to prioritise social justice bollocks and wealth redistribution. But then we get little NGO wankers standing here and talking about sustainable futures and inequality and how it's a supposed crisis. Explain to me how this is a crisis, because a crisis to me would suggest something out with our control.
Poorest in Scotland struggle to afford food, and more people are turning to food banks. The workers in the food system are some of the most poorly paid, from the farmers and crofters who often don't get paid a fair price, to shop assistants who are on low wages and 0 hours contract. Add up. We can't be a country famous for good food where people and the environment suffer. We need a new law to fix the food system.
Here we go. I wonder what it could be.
And this is where the Good Food Nation Bill comes in. A Good Food Nation Bill can lead the way to a fairer,
leading the fucking way,
healthier, and more environmentally sustainable food system. So,
a fairer, more sustainable food system. Ooh. The Scottish Government are proposing a new law on food. We believe they have some good ideas, but this law will need to be more ambitious to make the real changes that we think are needed. By taking a whole system approach which recognises that food insecurity, non-existent man-made climate change, public health, biodiversity, workers' rights, animal welfare, access to land and waste are all interrelated. The Good Food Nation Bill will create a coherent framework that ensures people's fundamental human rights and the integrity of our ecological home are promoted today and into the future. Yeah, it's a pity you can't say the same for our people though, eh? No, chance will be a fine thing. Too busy bragging about being diverse, I see. Our proposals for the Good Food Nation Bill would be incorporating the right to food into Scots law, you know, the UN's incorporation of the right to food into Scots law. That our government makes sure everyone has access to high quality, nutritious and sustainable food, because without this law, they do not, you see. Sure, the way we produce food is fair to people, animals and the environment. Eat the bugs, bigot. The cross-cutting national food plans, oh, they're cross-cutting. The food policy is fragmented. The government departments create separate and contradictory strategies, but we know best. The national performance framework, based on everyone having the right to food. I can see it now, a nice big fat plate of Bill Gates' sustainable carrots. Be linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. What an effing shock that is. Halving the environmental impact of the food system by 2030 now. How are they going to do that? Well, we need to phase out the meat industry, boy. Workers in the food sector paid at least a living wage. Halving of childhood obesity by 2030, because that is the UN's issue. You have to be very knowledgeable in the subjects at hand to realise just who these people really are. When you look at some of the words that they include in every paragraph, it doesn't take long. Right now, food's at the heart of some of Scotland's biggest challenges. We have a food system of injustice. Oh God. Many people are priced out of a decent diet, relying on food banks and suffering the consequences of poor nutrition. Big business makes healthy profits, but do not value the people who work to produce and process food, the farm animals, or the wildlife and natural resources. Fuck are the farm animals going to do with anything? No offence to them. However, we need a just transition to a communist society, which is founded on social and environmental justice. I mean, just get real. Preying on people's financial insecurities for your own nefarious fucking means. Bill must protect people, the environment, and animals from harm. Well, how are you going to protect animals from harm? Well, eat those bugs, bigot. There is no need for food banks, but yet they're everywhere. Healthy and sustainable food. Ooh, there's more food. Food plays a part in fun and creative communities, with markets and meals bringing people together. The Good Food Nation Bill must ensure the benefits of good food are enjoyed by people equally. Change the context within which food choices are made. Again, there's a little subtle indication as to what they're going to do or what they want to do. Encroach into your life. It's got F all to do with them, what choices you make in relation to food. F them, F the UN, and F the government. I mean, you either have to be a woman or a right poof to write stuff like this. Food is empowering. Who says that? I mean, these words. Food education in school equips everyone with basic skills and information regarding growing, cooking, nutrition, and of course, sustainability. Inflation can play a crucial role in setting the direction of travel towards a fair, healthy, sustainable food system. Of course. Establishing the purpose of the food system in law, with accompanying systems of governance that ensure progress and accountability, can catalyse a transformation in how our food system works, so the government dictate what you can and cannot consume, etc. Sounds great. The bill creates a coherent framework that ensures people's human rights and the integrity of our ecological home are protected today and into the future. To food. But without protection in Scottish law, these rights can't shape policy or practice. Well, I could say the same about the fact that we have a right to remain a majority in our own country. We have a right to be recognised as native to this land, but you don't want to go down that route because that's racist and far right. But we'll talk about sustainability and empowering food. This means food should be accessible to people both financially and geographically. Food should be adequate in terms of its nutrition, content, safety and cultural appropriateness. Scottish culture, so if you're not from Scotland you have to adapt, surely no? And food should be available by way of resources, infrastructure and a healthy environment that enables people to produce food now and into the future. The Food Commission would provide expertise on realising the right to food, scrutinise relevant policies, report on the state of the food system and ensure coherence across government. Now again, going back to what I said earlier on in relation to communitarianism, there's always talk of a commission being set up to oversee things, etc. Faceless structures that are set up with these faceless entities, the more it becomes rather evident that there's a restructuring at play here. And by bit, they are imposing more and more control and dominance over your life. Facilitate public participation in food policy and be charged with overseeing a democratic and rights-based approach to food. Rights-based approach to food, but who defines right-based approach? Well, that's the United Nations, of course. Food policy is fragmented with different government departments creating separate and sometimes contradictory strategies. This prohibits clear leadership, which businesses and communities can respond to. A requirement that every 5 years the government ministers consult on and collectively agree a plan for food farming, etc. in Scotland would ensure effective action through a strategic joined-up policy making. A national food plan would be grounded in the right to food, include targets on specific issues, and linked to the National Performance Framework and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, of course. Success of becoming a good food nation will depend on the government and coordination of all levels of government, as well as the inclusion of unions and communities in developing strategies. Duties on local authorities, health boards and other public bodies to adhere to the right to food framework, or else ensure all available levers are used to support the transformation. In addition to defining the purpose of our food system and creating a new system of governance for it, the Nation Bill should include specific programmatic measures and targets to stimulate immediate action with the Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, because we can't do anything ourselves. We need the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Food is empowering. You people are a bunch of fucking wankers.